All right, we're live. I'm rolling solo today. Rolling solo. I got no Josh. He's in New Orleans celebrating his birthday. Happy birthday to Josh. Uh, Real quick, if you want to hang out with us, talk some Star Wars, uh, go to the link below. We got 108 day tickets available. They're only going to be available a short while. They're definitely going to sell out. So get your tickets now. But let's get into this episode. And I'm just going to give you kind of a stream of consciousness right now because by myself, this is how you're going to get it. You got a big picture of me with the little picture here. That's what you're going to get today. So be ready for it. All right. So let's get into the initial scene. And this is the scene where Kino and Cassian are talking about what they just found out and what they're going to need to do. And the interesting part to me here is that, like, on its face, you can understand why Andy Serkis's character is so kind of hesitant about this, just because you're giving him 5 minutes to say, okay, we're going to break out of prison tomorrow. It's our only chance. This is our best chance to do this. And what you don't know at that point, but which you get later, is that Andy Serkis knows, Kino knows that, like, no matter what happens here, he's not going to live through this. There's the whole one way out thing for everybody. For him, he realizes there's one way out and he can't do it. So this is something that you can, on a rewatch, the hesitance is even more understandable, but it's in that first moment, you're still like, yeah, I get it. You're asking a lot of this guy. You're asking him to lead a bunch of people to their probable deaths. Like, they know they're not all going to live through this. So that's asking a lot of Kino already, but what we don't realize is just how much he's asking of him. And so we'll get back to that in a minute, and we'll get back to the choice that Andy Serkis makes. But speaking of someone else who thinks they have a choice, we got to talk about Luthen's mole a little bit, Lonnie. So Lonnie's in the ISB, and he's under Luthen's thumb. And I don't know why, why or how that all happened and what his role will be in the future. But the interesting part about this to me was the vow, right? And you hear it later in the episode, and we'll definitely talk about what goes on there. But they talk about a vow. They talked about a vow in an earlier episode with Vel and Mon Mothma. And this is very much a Star Wars thing, right? Like, you think about the Sith and the Jedi and their vows, and they're kind of it's almost a religion, right? Where you're going to do things based on this set of criteria that you have, these rules that are in place for you. And that seems to be what's going on here. And that makes things difficult for anybody who's in these situations, right? I mean, like, you start to do things where you're losing sight of what you're actually doing because you feel like this is just the way you're supposed to do things, and you get a righteousness to it, right? Like, yeah, I killed that guy, but it was a means to an end. And like, they just keep getting further and further down that hole. And you see that when you look backwards at how they view Saw Gerrera's group when they get to Rogue One, right? Where they're doing things that are just so extreme. And you see Luthen's group going down the same path. I mean, forcing this guy to stay in the ISB and letting Krieger's men die, and all of what they'll talk about later in the episode. That's all because of this vow, right? They've made this choice. This is I think someone put it in here is that it almost seems like a mafia vow, and it does, right? It seems like you can mirror the conversation that in The Godfather that Hyman Roth has with Al Pacino's character, and I'm blanking on his name, which Michael Corleone, where he says, "This is the life we've chosen." Right? This is what we chose to do. There's a lot of movies in the mafia verse that, like, that's the theme, and it's the same here. And you look at it's the problem that the Jedi had all the way through, the Clone Wars and the prequels. They're so like engulfed in what their rules were and what they were supposed to be doing, that they didn't pay attention that they were getting overthrown the whole time, that they were getting used as pawns. And so it's interesting that, we see this here with Lonnie, but we're also about to see it with Mon Mothma, and she's going to have to make a very interesting choice, because you've got Davo comes in again, very Godfather-esque. He doesn't want any money from her for his services to launder money. He wants a favor, right? And it quickly goes from Godfather to like House of the Dragon, where the favor is, I want to marry off my son to your daughter, which is, something that they teased earlier in episodes when they talked about the arranged marriages in Chandrila. And so that's the, an interesting piece there is that they've been talking about this a little bit to kind of set up this scene, but I'm wondering if they're setting up something a little bit more. And I wonder, when he's walking out and he says, that's the first untrue thing you've said. He also earlier mentioned that he knows Perrin, right? And so Perrin, I mean, like, this is unsurprising to me that Perrin feels like if it was The Sopranos, he would be a guy that hung out at Bada Bing. Like, it just feels that way. Like, he feels like he wants to be around this element. He likes these kinds of guys. They're exciting to him. And I think that it's possible that Mon could take that. And since her family's so shitty to her, I'm not going to feel bad about it if she does this. But I think she could turn it on Perrin and the daughter and kind of give this to Perrin as like, hey, I can't believe that Davo, whatever his name is asking to try and marry our daughter. Can you believe this? To which Perrin will probably be very in favor of it happening. And then Perrin will have to be the one to force the situation and make this happen, when really that's what Mon is going to need to happen to launder the money. But she's going to be able to play her husband against her daughter, who are both shitty to her. And normally I would be like, man, that's messed up. I don't like seeing Mon Mothma do that. But after seeing her family in this series, I'm kind of all in favor of it. I hope that she does swing this. And I hope that, like, it could at least shed some light to the daughter that her father's a piece of shit. But we'll see. We'll see how that goes. I'm kind of hoping that it goes that way. We'll see. I think there's more likelihood that she'll just not deal with that guy, that she'll find some other way to move the money. But I don't know. It feels like she's running out of options, and it feels like she's going to have to at some point get her hands a little bit dirty. Not as much as maybe Luthen is willing to do, but a little bit more than maybe she is willing to do at this point. So we'll see. We'll see how seriously she takes that vow and what lengths she's willing to go to. I think we're going to have to see that soon. All right. Now it's time for this prison break. So this was awesome. So first of all, we've talked a lot about this on this show over the course of all the episodes that we've done of different shows. And it's just like the Imperial guards and troops and admins, there's like just this ineptitude amongst them that allows for a rebellion to happen, right? And here we have it again. Cassian comes out of the bathroom like Renton in Train Spotting. He is just soaking wet. Like, I don't, what the hell happened to him? And no one notices. Not to mention, the bathroom is flooding like Mike Ditka was just in there taking a shit. Like, there's just water flowing out onto the floor. So, like, again, these guards are terrible at their job. They're way outnumbered. It's definitely, Cassian's right. This is definitely the time to make this prison break. And then they start the prison break. And I loved it because it was so chaotic. And it reminds me back, I was watching an interview that Rob Zombie was doing about Devil's Rejects. And he was talking about the fight scene that he had when they're just kind of like rolling around on the ground and like they're scrapping and scraping and grabbing each other's hair and shit. And he's like, I wanted it to look like a real fight. I didn't want it to look like a movie fight where there's these big haymakers and guys are landing punches that would never happen in real life. I wanted it to look, if you were trying to get away from a guy trying to kill you, what it would actually look like. And I liked that about this, the initial prison break here. Like when they're fighting them, they're just throwing shit. They're throwing whatever they have and like hitting them with these things. And it was like, yes, that's exactly how this would go. And this is the only way that you'd survive if someone's shooting at you and all you have is like the metal pieces that they had of the whatever they're building for the Death Star. And so that part I just really enjoyed. And so then they start to overtake the guards and they start to get out, and you hear Kino yell climb. And I'm just gonna say it for if any of you out there get a role in season 2 of Andor and you look at the script and you say climb, just know you're gonna die like almost immediately. This is a pure death sentence for anybody who's talking near Cassian. You say the word climb, you're just dead. So this is the Nemec did it. Now Kino did it, and we know that K2SO is going to say it in Rogue One. Not a good result for you if you say that. So like Kino's yelling that, but one thing we got to note about Kino in this scene is when the guards are trying to take back the room, and they know that and he yells for everybody to get up on the tables because they know they're gonna turn on the floor. He doesn't go anywhere. Kino is ready to die right there to short out the floor. Like that's his sacrifice. He knows he's not going to live. Like he's already well aware he is not going to live. And so he stays in there. Someone else gets fried and it turns off the floor. So now he's going to go with them, and they go out. They take control of everything. They go up to the control room. They find the Wizard of Oz ass guy doing the deep voice over the speaker, right? And like you see, it's all just smoke and mirrors. And this is when Kino has to give a speech, and I love that it's basically in Snoke's voice. That's just perfect. Like they're like, yeah, let's just use the same effects, and we'll make him sound like Snoke again. But this is again something that he was unprepared to do. This is in the grand scheme of things, he does not think he's alive at this point. He's already said in his cell that he's assuming he's dead, which we don't know about as much until later. But he's ready to die on the floor. He's gonna short out the floor for them. But he lives through that. He goes to this, and now he's in the control room, and his speech to everybody is just incredible. And it's made even better because in this series we've seen the terrible Cyril Karn speech, and so seeing him give the speech and into the Han Solo microphone, which was also great. He's giving this speech, right, and he's not only echoing what Cassian told him earlier, but this is the first time Cassian's going to hear what we eventually hear Jyn Erso say about taking a chance and then taking the next chance. Kino has just lived through this, and he's giving that kind of speech to them. We don't know how long we're going to hold on, but there's one way out. We all know where that is, and we've just got to go for it right now. And it's a suicide mission. It's the second suicide mission of the series for Cassian, and he's kind of seeing these guys lead that can do this. And in this case, when they get to the edge, it's sad because you see that Kino can't swim, and I felt that because I can't swim. So like I was like, oh shit, I would be just like Kino, but I probably wouldn't even tried any of this. And so Kino can't swim, and then Cassian is now with the realization as he jumps off or gets pushed off that this guy was doing this for us. He was not doing this for himself. It was a selfless act that Kino was doing to get everybody else out. The people that he had made be on program for so long, the people that he had made stay in line because he thought he was doing the best thing for them to get them all out of prison as quickly as possible. he realizes that that's not the case, and so he's going to do this. He's going to miss the sunrise. He's going to fight for someone else to see that sunrise. And so that's really I think, a big takeaway from Kino's character, and why it's such an impactful part of Cassian's journey. Not so much, yeah, I was in prison and I got out of prison. It's more like I'm seeing someone so altruistically help us and give himself up. Now, would I mind if we had a featurette after the series where Kino goes back in there and kills every guard? I think I'd be fine with that. I'd like to see it. But at the same time, I think the character was really fantastic, and it really shows that like there are people in this series that know that they're not going to get out of this series alive. They know they're not going to get out of the rebellion alive. They're not going to see it till the end. They're just going to do as much as they can, and that brings us to the last piece of this episode, and which is when Lonnie goes to see Luthen. And well, first of all, let's just touch on the fact that if you see a guy that looks like this in a cape in a dark hallway in Star Wars, you're fucked. Yeah, like you just gotta. It's like Wu-Tang Clan. This ain't nothing to fuck with. You see Darth Vader like this. You see Luke Skywalker like this, tearing up droids. You see Luthen now, like just I don't want any part of it, man. I don't want any part of it. But it's awesome. This is a great speech. When he asks him, what do you sacrifice? When he asks Luthen, what do you sacrifice? And he gives that huge monologue. I mean, like, just give Stellan all the awards, man. Just give him whatever awards you can. I mean, you could go retroactive and give him World's Strongest Man for carrying Thor 2 on his naked ass. You could give him another fucking Fields Medal. I don't care. Like, he just deserves all the awards for this monologue here. And it's so telling of where the start of the rebellion kind of lives mentally and what they're willing to do. And I think that, we see the end of the rebellion in a lot of these, a lot of the movies that we've seen so far, a lot of the places that we've gotten to see within the Star Wars universe. And a lot of it is the end part, right? Where like, yeah, the Empire has gotten to their worst point, and this is just a battle, and you don't feel, any indifference to it. Like you feel indifference to it because you're like, yeah, you got to. They're trying to kill everybody now, right? Like the Death Star's here. It's going to blow up planets. They're trying to get away from it, and here you're seeing that like this starts somewhere, and this starts. It's there's a lot of blood on the hands of these early rebels, and a lot of the things that they're going to do are vicious. And they take you aback, right? Like he talks about in this scene how he's willing to give up those 50 men that of Kriegers to keep Lonnie safe, because Lonnie's importance is far more than those 50 men. Imagine having that weight on your shoulders, right? I mean, imagine being Lonnie and going like 50 people are going to die because they want to keep me in place here. Like that's got to be just horrible to weigh on you every day. And I think that is giving some kind of real structure and real essence to what we're going to see out of the next season of this. And I'm really excited for the last 2 episodes. I think they're going to be insane. There's a lot of stuff to try and close up before the end of the series. And of course, I'm wondering what my guy Cyril Karn's going to be up to, that fucking psychopath. So I'm excited for all of it. And I hope that, the next 2 episodes, like I can't wait for them both to happen. I think the first one's going to leave us on a cliffhanger, but we'll be back next weekend to talk about that. But, right now, I'll leave you guys. I really enjoyed this episode. I don't know how you couldn't have enjoyed this one. It was just fantastic. But yeah, we'll talk to you guys soon. And I'm glad you guys were able to jump on and watch this. And I hope you enjoyed just me dumping my brain into YouTube. We'll talk to you soon.